I am Katie Krimitsos, and you know it, I'm the one.
Welcome to I Am the One, Entrepreneur Edition, a show that explores the journey of business owners who decided to be the one to make life better for the people they serve. I'm your host, Sonia Thompson, and today's guest totally rocks, Katie Krimitsos. Katie is the founder of the podcast Biz Women Rock, a show that profiles women who are kicking some major butt with their businesses. As a result of her show, Katie has built a thriving community in addition to the business she runs full-time with her husband. We can learn a bunch from Katie's experience in building a business while juggling a whole lot of other important things that require her attention. But before we dive into the interview, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Try Business School. Get the information you need to build the business of your dreams, step by step. Visit trybizschool.com, that's trybizschool.com, and get started with your free e-course, the 4 people you need to build a successful business. Ready to rock? I sure hope so, because here's Katie. Well, hello, Katie. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's so great to have you.
What is going on, Sonia? Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell me about your rockin' podcast that you've been doing for over a year now. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So it was a year in February, and right now you and I are talking in June. So I think that's almost about a year and a half. The podcast is called Biz Women Rock, and they are very real, very intimate, very authentic interviews with amazing businesswomen, literally from all over the world in every different industry that you can possibly imagine. And the interview is really one that elicits their own story, tells their own business journey, but elicits a lot of opportunities for my listeners to be able to hear best practices, feel connected when things weren't so good. And, you know, women are willing to talk about that and just be able to take that experience from that woman and bring it into their own business. So my goal is always to make sure that my listeners, my community are really getting something that they can hang on to help and fuel their own business journeys.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what was the problem that you saw that existed in before you started this podcast? And why did you feel that you were the one to fill this void?
Well, every entrepreneur knows that that is the best and most educated thing that you could do is find the need and fulfill it, find the pain. But most of us don't do that way. Much like myself, I was not that smart about it. I started it because for purely selfish reasons. My husband and I run a local entrepreneurs community that is very hands-on heavy. And I wanted to be able to create something a little bit more location independent, something a little bit more digital, something that I didn't have to be at events all the time in order to manage and grow a business. And I knew enough because I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. That's what we do here locally. I knew enough that I would see when another sort of good size business owner would share their story with our community. I saw the light bulbs go off for our members. I would see their aha moments. I would see like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh my God, I don't feel so alone. So I had the privilege of being able to see that for about 6 years prior and how powerful that was. So I don't think I was very conscientious about, oh, there's this need and I'm going to fulfill it. I knew that people, and specifically women, because I'm very passionate about women's business journeys and really empowering women to kind of live lives that they really are fired up about and build businesses that are great and actually make a ripple effect impact. So I just knew, probably very selfishly as my own kind of a person, I was like, I think that I've had the personal experience that everyone is really touched by personal stories like this. And if I can narrow it down to be geared at just women, that would be awesome. And I was cognizant and I did research on the fact that at the time I was about to launch, I looked at the podcasting landscape. And what was definitely missing at that time, and thankfully it's not missing anymore, but was definitely missing there, was women. Like there was no house for women's business voices. They were getting interviewed on all sorts of other podcasts, but they were mainly podcasts run by other men, or they were podcasts run by other women, but they weren't women specific. So I saw very clearly, I was like, okay, there's no place that's like a home for business women's stories, and I want to be that home. So I wasn't completely ignorant, but like it just wasn't, it all sort of festered together. So it was a very selfish thing, but it was also, I did enough research to know that there was a hole out there.
Yeah, and you've been filling it nicely, and I think the reception has been very good as women have just sort of latched on to the idea in the community that you've created.
Yeah, I've been very, very lucky with that. It's been awesome. And, we did I was very strategic, especially in the beginning. Before I even launched my podcast, I launched the brand. I launched the Biz Women Rock brand. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that literally is that I created a Facebook page with the logo on it and started kind of like, cultivating just really cool information that I thought would really inspire women, just to kind of see if like there were women out there who would really connect with the brand. And literally within 2 weeks, we had 2,000 likes on the Facebook page. So I was like, okay, that's a really good indicator. People are really liking the brand. They're getting it. So I felt really confident in knowing that women would really connect with that brand, whatever it was attached to.
Right. Now, speaking of branding, what role do you think that has played in the overall success of your podcast? Because a lot of people, I think, go out and they just start businesses and they don't think about the branding behind it. What role has that played for you?
Huge. I'm going to call it very foundational because I did prepare in the very beginning that, okay, some of my foundational things that I did was I was very first like, okay, who's my target market? Who's my avatar, which is who's that one person listening or being a part of this community? Who is she? What is she like? What are her likes and dislikes? All that sort of stuff. And then what does she really identify with? And what do I want this brand to be about? So I knew it wanted to be about, rock star women, like me, like kick-ass women. I don't know if you could say that on your show. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, good. So I knew it wanted to be about kick-ass women, and I didn't want pink frilly stuff everywhere because that's not who I am as a business owner. There's plenty of that out there, and I love it and respect it. It's just not me. So I knew my colors. So when we talk branding, it's colors, it's logo, it's name, it's all, and it's what the brand means. So there's all those different elements of a brand, right? Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. The name gets everyone stopped up. Like a lot of people are like, I don't know what to call it. I started, and I'm a big believer that the name is not intrinsically connected to the brand, meaning you can change names, but the brand stays the same. So when I first started, it was called Business Superwomen. And I thought that was really great. Now, the branding is, this really awesome, powerful businesswoman in her business suit with the cape, right? So she's Beautiful. This very, it's a very like comic book, but beautiful representation, I think. And that's always been constant. And then I had a friend who is kind of an online marketing expert sit down with me, and he said, Katie, especially because we were doing the Facebook page, he's like, it'd be really beneficial if you created a title that provoked action and that provoked people not being able to argue with that. So he's like, Business Superwoman is awesome, but what do I do with Business Superwoman? Am I one of them? Do I think that, I don't want the Superwoman syndrome? Do I like it? Do I not? I don't know. But Business Women Rock. Every woman is going to see that in their feed and be like, hell yeah, we do. Yeah, I like it. So as far as kind of circling back around to the name, I changed it to Business Women Rock, and that's how I launched the show. And then probably about 6 months into it, I actually changed it, shortened it up to Biz Women Rock. So just the cool little lesson there is that as long as you know what your brand, the heart and soul of your brand is about, like I had sort of mentioned before, my brand was not frilly and pinky. It was smart. It was savvy. It was powerful. It was vulnerable. And it was, just really business smart. Mm-hmm. And I knew what my colors were. I knew what that lady looked like, the name was allowed to change because of that. And people totally embraced that.
Yeah. And I think that's another great lesson too, that you can pivot and you can make changes in your business without feeling like everything is going to fall apart as you learn more about your audience. So that's a very good point to bring out there too.
Yeah.
All
Thanks.
right. So you also mentioned that you run a business full time with your husband, and now you've started this other business with your podcast, which is a big undertaking. How do you balance the two in terms of finding time to do one and then finding time to do the other? Or does it just, how do they all fit in a day?
The answer to that is I don't, and I don't very well. Balance is, if there's one thing that I've learned not only from my own experience, but from interviewing hundreds of business women, there is no such thing as balance. It is literally, where am I choosing to put my time at this moment? And how am I making sure that that fits into the bigger picture of things? So as you can see behind me, it's pretty messy. Because I ain't ashamed of the fact that things are a little chaotic here in our local business.
Okay.
We do a lot of events for entrepreneurs. So this is all like, staging area type stuff. But, how do I manage all of it? Sometimes I do it beautifully and wonderfully, and sometimes I suck at it. And it's gone through transition. It's gone through a lot of evolution. In the very beginning, the way I handled it is I literally didn't sleep. So anyone who's started a business and probably started that business maybe working a full-time job and trying to kind of do the side hustle is probably feeling me right now, because I was working my very full-time business, and on top of this, launched this podcast, which took a lot of love and energy and attention. And I average, and I'm really not exaggerating here, at least twice a week, I would have complete all-nighters. Like I would be up. My Biz Women Rock time was in the evening after I finished whatever I needed to do for my local company. And back then I did a heck of a lot of editing. So I would edit until 6 a.m. I would take a shower and I would get up and I'd be out of the house for an 8 o'clock appointment to start another day. And that's what I did for probably 3 or 4 months. And it was exhausting, and I was going crazy. But, things evolved, and slowly but surely I handed that off. And slowly but surely my editing got down from like 8 hours per show to like, an hour. And you force yourself to have to become good at systems and automating as much as you can and trusting other people to do other stuff. Now, the new evolution that I've gone through is I am about 5 months pregnant right now. And as soon as we found out we were pregnant, my husband and I had to do a really massive shift on, okay, in order to not only prepare for baby, but in order to know that I'm going to have these next 9 months to prepare the Biz Women Rock business, which once again is really I can be at home with my baby type of a business.
Right.
So I knew that I needed to put a little bit more energy into that and getting that rolling in a certain way. So we really did a massive shift. So all of a sudden, back in February, right after we found out we were pregnant, there was this massive shift of roles. So all of a sudden, and the way I organized it was every Monday and Wednesday is when I'm here for my local business. And then every Tuesday and Thursday is when I'm working on Biz Women Rock. And then usually every Friday I have interviews stacked up one by one. Now I say that and it sounds awesome, but there are plenty of weeks that things bleeding into each other. Today's a perfect example. It's Thursday and I haven't touched Biz Women Rock at all today because of things happening and schedules come out. But it's a matter of keeping very cognizant about that and very aware of where my time is being spent. So that's how I try to manage it.
You do the best you can, but it sounds like you're getting a good handle on it, which is great.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about a failure that you encountered during the course of this journey with Biz Women Rock, and what you learned from it.
Oh man, there have been so many. Just like any business, the question I hear a lot from people who want a podcast is, how did you monetize your podcast? And I'll start out with a simple definition, is that I really consider monetization of a podcast not simply sponsorship of the podcast, but any product or service that comes out of the fact that this podcast has launched a brand. So if I create a program, if I create an ebook, if I create whatever it is, anything like that, I kind of put that under the umbrella of monetizing for this business, right? So, so I had, I'm going to say that this literally, was this recently? No, sorry. This was back probably 7 months into me launching the podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone has a program. I need to do a program. I don't know what to do. I need to start monetizing this, right? So now by that point, I was really blessed. I had an amazing active private Facebook group. I had a really active Facebook page. So I had an audience. I had an email list. And so I decided one thing that I'm really good at, and one way that I wouldn't have to literally create like this whole giant website project in order to fulfill a program, I could do a 30-day biz challenge. Because I knew if there's one thing I'm really good at, it's, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how do I get there? And I'm very, I have developed some very unique skills on how to help other people do that and structure. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I could totally do this. I kind of created the program. It could be more manual, meaning I didn't need to create all this online stuff and like hundreds or thousands of dollars going into whatever web development to do it, right? I could manage it just one-on-one just to kind of try it. So I did the webinar, and the first failure was that like my website completely went down like 5 minutes before the webinar. It was horrendous. And I had to like resend out different little links. I didn't practice well enough. And this is a good lesson. I hadn't practiced enough with Google Hangouts, which is how I did the webinar. I hadn't practiced enough with it. So I was totally screwing up and sending people different links that didn't work. But finally, I don't even know how long into it, like I ended up getting it fine. And I did have, I don't know my numbers right off the top of my head, but let's just say I probably had about 50 women on the call, which is dang good for your very first webinar, right? So I was like, okay, cool. And at the end of it, I did this close and, hey, you can purchase this program. And I turned off Google Hangouts and I threw my head down onto the table and cried because it was that painful. I had one person buy, and it was like a $97 price point. And I was like, okay, one person bought, so that's at least tells me somebody found value in it. Mm-hmm. So what I did, because I'm like, well, crap, that's $97 for all of this work. But you know what? I need to make it happen now. So I comped in probably, I think, about 6 other women. So my first program, I had 7 women. Mm-hmm. I made $97 from it. And it ended up being a great program. But, the failure in that was really, and I'll actually kind of jump to this lesson too, is that I just months ago, I launched a second version of a 30-day biz program based on that first experience, raised the price because women told me I would have paid more if you would have given me more kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I raised the price, gave more, all this sort of stuff. And I think I had 4 people purchase at $297. Mm-hmm. But the program itself was a failure. Like one person out of 5 actually did anything. So, like for me, it really, really made, and here's why, my lessons out of these failures are always like, if you don't try, you're not going to know. So right. Yes, I made money on them, some very minimal, some at least a couple $100, which is great. But, like they weren't the ideal program. This is not like a signature program I ever really want to roll out, but it really helped me learn like what works, what doesn't, I don't care how much my audience, and this can be for anyone to take, I don't care how much people tell you they want stuff, until they are willing to put their credit card in and purchase it, you don't know if anyone will do it. So that just told me that there's not enough of a demand for this program, that I could have spent all this time and money on creating this massive thing that had a whole private website, and there was no reason to do that. So the lesson in the failure was really like, okay, I tried it, didn't really work. The return wasn't really great. So I super over delivered. Everything was great, but that's not what I want to do.
Right. You want to make sure that you're giving them something that they want to buy versus what you want to sell.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, very good lesson. And it's good that you didn't spend a bunch of money to have to learn that lesson.
Seriously.
So what has been your proudest moment so far?
I think one of the most proud things that I have experienced, and they come in little moments. The very first moment of it was, my goodness, 2 weeks after my podcast went live for the first time. Mm-hmm. And my very first guest, who happens to be a very good friend of mine, her name is Joy Jandusa. She runs Postcard Mania. It's a postcard and actually a full service marketing company. And it's a $23 million company. This lady knows a little bit about running a business, right? She told her beautiful story, and it was fantastic. And somebody had sent her, this girl's name was Stephanie. I remember her. She had sent her a LinkedIn message saying, I came across you on the Biz Women Rock podcast. I just want to say thank you so much. I'm a graphic designer. I really resonated with your story. It was this like 3-paragraph email. And so Joy sent it to me. And I remember I was driving at that time that I shouldn't say this, but I happened to be driving and I was at a red light and I was just kind of checking my email and I saw this and I literally had to pull over because I started crying because and I've had pieces of that. I mean, every week I have some sort of piece of reminder of why I do what I do and how it's making an impact on people. Within we have a private Facebook group called the BWR Connect. That's awesome and super amazing. And just the other day, I mean, I get into points where it's a very collaborative group. It's very much, it's not sell your business. It's very much like, hey guys, I'm having this issue. What do you recommend? Hey, what about this? And then every single day I'm posting some sort of a question in there that elicits an engagement from everyone, right? So literally just on Monday, I had posted, what's your one goal for the week? And then on Tuesday, I had posted something along the lines of how do you organize? Let's kind of like building on all this stuff. And then Wednesday, I posted, how do you get distracted? Sort of trying to identify and like make a little progression for everyone. And I literally just had one of the ladies in the group message me through Facebook and was like, thank you so much for these posts because they're exactly what I needed to kind of get myself on track today. And I mean, it's little, but those are my successes. Like, and when you pile them all up, I have been a massively successful person because that's what I really wanted to do. You talked about what need was I feeling and why did I come up with this business idea? The seed that it always comes from, always, is that as a little girl, I knew I was meant to touch people on a big scale. And I knew that wasn't just within my immediate surroundings. I knew it was global. I knew I'm going to change millions of lives. And I never knew what that looked like. And I still haven't realized all of that. But when I have those little successes and reminders, it reminds me, man, what I've built is pretty dang awesome. Like it's pretty awesome. And I'm not where I want to be. And on days when I start beating myself up about all of that, I find a lot of those things around me. And I'll go look into my emails. I'll go look at all that other stuff so I can see that. So sorry.
Oh, no worries. Oh, that's beautiful though. I mean, you need those moments to keep you going because it's not always easy for sure.
Nope, it definitely is not.
Now, any parting words of wisdom for entrepreneurs who are working hard to make their business dreams come true?
Yeah, if there's one, I'm a really relentless, goal-oriented person, and so I don't give up. There's no such thing of giving up in my world. Now, there's definitely pivoting, and there's definitely shifting and evolving. But one thing that I've definitely learned is that the commonality between the most successful business people really is there is no other option other than to succeed. And it's not always pretty. And actually, a lot of times it actually really sucks. And there are many times that you're like, and I have been like, I just need to go get a job. God, that would be so much easier than this. But, like at the end of the day, there's no other option than for me to keep on moving. And success is not this point that's 20 feet or 10 years ahead of me, or when I get to this revenue level. It's not there. It's here now, and it's in the process, and it's in, this whole, the everydayness of everything. So I've not always been perfect at this, but the one piece of advice that I can give is to truly enjoy the process, the lows, the highs, because you will look back on even a year from now and you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe the woman or the man that I have evolved into. I'm freaking genius, So just keep going and just be committed that there's no stopping you. And I really do believe that. If anyone has their mind affixed to an idea and a meaning for what they're doing, nothing. I mean, the world and the universe will move to make it happen for you as long as you're willing to put in the work to do it.
No, that's good feedback. That's very good wisdom. This has been so great. Before I let you go, I do have a bonus question for you.
Go for it.
So I always try to have a little fun to find out a little bit more behind the guest. So if you would go ahead and deliver a line from a movie that you enjoy. Sometimes there's just always these lines that stick with us that, for me, I often want to wait for there's a point in a conversation to bring it up and be like, yes, nobody puts baby in a corner.
I swear to God, that's the second time I've heard that line today. That is so funny. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to think of the line immediately, but I know that there's a famous line. But the first movie that comes to my mind is G.I. Jane with Demi Moore. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the hell the line is, but I'm just imagining her like doing the one-arm push-ups. And that's all. That's pretty much what I'll deliver the visual for you instead of the actual like verbal line, because I don't remember. I know that there's like a line that I always used to love quoting in there, but I don't remember what it is. But Demi Moore, one-arm push-up, muscle, kick-ass lady. Like that's just what I think of.
She rocked. She's the epitome of the woman in your show.
Telling you.
Yes. Katie, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. And I wish you all the continued success with your podcast and baby to come.
Thank you very much, Sonia. It has been awesome. I truly appreciate you asking me to come on the show. I'm very, very humbled by it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Katie gave us lots of cool things to chew on, but there was one thing in particular that stood out to me. And that brings us to today's I Am the One challenge. It's great to soak up the wisdom from inspiring entrepreneurs, but you've got to apply the lessons if you want to make them work for you in your business. So based upon Katie's insights, here's today's challenge question for you. Have you ever made a decision in your business that you realized later wasn't serving you and the goals you were trying to achieve? In business, the need to pivot when something isn't working is essential. So what thing do you need to give yourself permission to scrap or evolve? Think about it and then head on over to iamtheone.fm and let me know your answer. Leave it in the comments on the show notes page or even tweet me at Sonia E. Thompson. I'll be on the lookout for your answer. Until next time, keep working on building your dream business so you can make life better. Somebody's waiting on you. Thanks for watching.